Prices of pulses in this country are continuing to skyrocket by the day, despite the centre's attempt to try and curtail prices by importing an additional 3,000 tons of lentils. The fact is, pulses have hit the double century mark in parts of the country. Truly, it is a case, as we've been saying, ghar ki dal ab murgi barabar. Even a high-level cabinet meeting today held in Delhi to firefight the crisis has tried to come up with some solutions as the problem seems to intensify. It has dampened the festive mood in the country. It is also seen to be playing a role in the Bihar elections at the moment, and the government is now desperate to import pulses to try and ease the prices, but nothing seems to be working at the moment. Prices in cities like Mumbai are over 200 rupees a kilo. That is the truth of the pulse crisis in India. Let me go straight across to the man who knows more about it than anyone else in the country, Dr. Ashok Gulati, the country's leading agricultural economist, joining us. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Gulati. Dr. Gulati, would you say that this is a crisis caused by lower production and high consumption, and that's the reason why we are facing these high prices? Is that underproduction the main cause, sir?
I would say 90% yes.
So you're saying 90% widening gap between production and consumption, but I am presuming that the balance 10% is then the failure of the government and the state agencies to anticipate a shortfall in pulse production because of unseasonal rain this year.
Well, anticipation well in time and taking the preemptive corrective action is part of the duty of the government. So somebody has to be held accountable when we knew that production is down by 2 million tons and the coming crop also is not good because of a huge drought in Maharashtra particularly. Then some action should have been taken right at that time. And therefore, you know, production will always be volatile, but the wisdom lies in either you have a good trade policy well in advance, or you have some buffer stocking policy, or you look towards the future markets and the forwards. How they are behaving, you will get some advance intimation from that. Now, you didn't have a buffer stock, you'd killed the futures and forwards, and now you have no idea what is happening in the country. We don't know how much is the stock in the country. At least earlier we knew how much. Now stocking limits, whatever stocks were visible, they have gone underground, and now you are shooting in the dark.
So who are we going to hold accountable today? If on my plate dal is costing more than 200 rupees a kilo, do I hold the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Food and Consumer Affairs, NAFED?
I think it's the Ministry of Food and Consumer Affairs who are supposed to take care of the spikes in prices. Ministry of Agriculture comes into picture when prices collapse and farmers are suffering. At present, the consumers are suffering, and that's the duty of the Ministry of Food and Consumer Affairs.
So is this to some extent a man-made crisis, a failure of our food pricing system? Is that what you're saying, Dr. Gulati, today?
Well, it is a failure of the system. I mean, this is something like, you know, when if you don't have any advance information, Ministry of Agriculture had given that the production was less. So somebody had to act that where the prices would be, and monitoring the prices is the job of the Ministry of Consumer Affairs.
You know, the government says it's acting. So the government says it's acting swiftly. It's ordered 7,000 metric tons from the international market, has invoked a 500 crore price stabilization fund to subsidize transport of pulse stocks from ports to retailers. This doesn't seem to be working, sir.
It's not even a drop in the bucket. Think about tuar. The annual consumption of tuar is 3.3 million tons, and you are talking of 5,000 tons of imports or 7,000 tons of imports. It's a joke what you are talking, that you can handle prices through this. This is not even an action.
So those are very strong words.
Scratching the surface of the problem.
You're calling the government's solution a joke. What, according to you, is the immediate short-term solution, Dr. Gulati?
They can import pulses. If tuar is not available, go for large-scale imports of yellow pea from Canada or chickpea from Australia, or whichever pulses, lupins are there in Australia. Even reconstitute the soya flour into tur type of dal. There is a technology that can be done quickly, and that you should be selling at 50 rupees, 60 rupees, 70 rupees a kg all across government-owned mother dairy or Safal or others. Because tur production in the world is very limited. So when you go for a big import, those prices will go up. Already they have gone up.
So effectively what you're saying, everyone must take responsibility for not acting much earlier. Am I correct from what you're saying?
We have already been sleeping for a long time. They have woken up when the fire is in full, and therefore they are trying to do firefighting. The damage has been done. It is too late, too little. But at least in the medium run, they should have a strategy that in the next 2 years, so that we don't repeat this again next year. So I think we need to get our acts together, and somebody should be held responsible within the system whose failure it is. Otherwise the system, we react only to crises, and that's not the way rational people would do in any country.
Very, very strong words coming from you, Dr. Gulati. I appreciate you giving us some perspective. Hopefully someone there in the Ministry of Food and Consumer Affairs, as you're saying, will be held accountable for this country's dal crisis.